We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Russian President Putin to attend the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit along with Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi today. Talks to include issues of regional and global issues. Prime Minister Modi extends a warm welcome to Russian President Putin in New Delhi, hosts a dinner, presents a copy of the holy book of Gita in Russian, says its teachings inspire millions. In a big win for Trump, a U.S. court allows National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C. to continue, pausing a lower court order that would have ended the deployment in the coming days. Reserve Bank of India to announce monetary policy amid expectations of reduction in interest rate, while rupee rebounds after hitting record low. And FIFA World Cup draws to be announced today in Washington. 48 football teams are in fray. And on to the details now. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in New Delhi for a two-day state visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, marking the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. Now, this visit exemplifies one of India's most enduring bilateral relationships sustained through various conflicts. Our next report brings you more details.
In a rare diplomatic gesture that underscores the strong ties between India and Russia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received Russian President Vladimir Putin at Delhi Airport on Thursday. This gesture highlights the strategic partnership and close relationship between the two leaders. Putin arrived in India for a two-day state visit. During the visit, President Putin will engage in delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Modi to review the special and privileged strategic partnership, while President Draupadi Murmu will receive him and host a banquet. Key events on Friday will also include a guard of honor at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Bilateral meetings between the two leaders will cover discussions on critical regional and global issues, reaffirming reliable partnership amid shifting geopolitics. A major focus of the visit is on expanding economic and trade ties, with bilateral trade hitting a record $68.7 billion in the last financial year. Both leaders aim to narrow India's trade deficit by ramping up exports such as pharmaceuticals, textiles, marine products, potatoes, and pomegranates, which were recently launched for export to Russia. They will also advance talks on local currency settlements to facilitate smoother trade. Beyond trade, people to people ties between the two countries are strengthening. The Indian community in Russia has surged to nearly 100,000, including an increase in medical students, signaling growing opportunities. To further support bilateral relations, two new Indian consulates were opened this year in Kazan and Yekaterinburg to boost trade, tourism, and cooperation in sectors such as fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing. During the visit, a high level India Russia business forum attended by both Prime Minister Modi and Russian President will be held. This forum brings together Russian delegates from infrastructure, transport, construction, agro products, and fertilizer sectors, which are vital given Russia's supply of approximately 3.4 million tons of fertilizers to India, aiming to further elevate Indian exports and deepen economic engagement. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
Meanwhile, on Thursday, Prime Minister Modi presented a Russian-language copy of the Bhagavad Gita to Putin at his Delhi residence. Prime Minister Modi later shared the moment on social media, writing that the Gita's teachings inspire millions of people around the world. The Prime Minister hosted him for a private dinner at his residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg on Thursday night. And as India and Russia strengthen their diplomatic and strategic engagements, a series of high-level meetings today underscored the growing depth of cooperation between the two long-standing partners. Here's a look at the key developments shaping this crucial bilateral relationship. Take a look.
As Russian President Vladimir Putin begins his visit to India, the top leadership of both the nations engaged into a series of high level discussions underscoring the growth depth of the Indo Russian partnership. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh co chaired the 22nd India Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Military Technical Cooperation with his Russian counterpart, Andrei Belosov, in New Delhi on Thursday. Rajnath Singh noted that defense cooperation between the two countries continues to progress at a healthy pace.
रशिया भारत का एक टाइम टेस्टेड स्पेशल प्रिविलेज्ड और स्ट्रेटजिक पार्टनर है और वर्ष 2000 में डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ द इंडिया एंड रशिया स्ट्रेटजिक पार्टनरशिप पर साइन होने के बाद से हमारे बाइलेटरल डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन में काफ़ी बढ़ोतरी भी हुई है। ये अच्छी बात है कि इतनी जियोपॉलिटिकल अनसर्टेनिटी के बावजूद हमारा इंडिया रशिया डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन एक हेल्दी पेस पर चल रहा है और हमारे आर्म्ड फोर्सेज पर्सनल और एक्सपर्ट्स के बीच होने वाले आउटकम ओरिएंटेड एक्सचेंज ने हमारे डिफेंस पार्टनरशिप के मोमेंटम को बनाए रखा है।
Highlighting the strategic nature of the relationship, Belousov underscored India-Russia ties remain a key factor in maintaining balance in South Asia and contributing to global security.
Our bilateral relations have a strategic character, and the partnership with India is a key factor for the balance in the South Asian region and the global security in general.
Earlier in the day, India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, along with Maxim Oreshkin, Deputy Chief of Staff in the Russian Presidential Executive Office, addressed the India-Russia Business Forum in Delhi. Goyal said India's resilience and economic strength have helped it withstand global challenges.
Despite all the global headwinds, India and our economy has demonstrated tremendous ability to withstand headwinds, shock, challenges. From a fragile 5 economy barely 11 years ago, we are today amongst the top 5 economies, soon to become the world's third largest GDP.
While Oreshkin described India as the world's fastest growing economy.
We see what significant results the Indian economy achieved over the recent years, becoming the most quickly growing economy of the world. The figures speak for themselves. Average annual growth of GDP over the recent 5 years is exceeding 8%.
With strategic dialogues, defense cooperation, and rising trade ambitions setting the tone, India and Russia look poised to elevate their partnership to the next level. As President Putin's visit unfolds, all eyes remain on the outcomes that could shape regional stability and global dynamics in the years ahead. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, India and Russia share a 78-year legacy of stable, time-tested partnership. The bond between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Vladimir Putin reflects the depth of the strategic partnership, strengthened further through annual summits and the 2+2 dialogue. Now, the regular high-level engagement continues to drive cooperation across political, defense, economic and technological domains. In the next report, Mohammad Absarul Hassan delves into various aspects of India-Russia relations.
Russia has been a long-standing and time-tested partner for India. Under the strategic partnership, several institutionalized dialogue mechanisms operate at both political and official levels to ensure regular interaction and follow-up on cooperation activities. The bilateral relationship has remained strong and stable over the past 78 years. In December 2021, a new dimension to the bilateral cooperation was added with the first 2+2 dialogue. Meetings of foreign and defense ministers of both countries started taking place alongside the summit level talks between Prime Minister Modi and President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. So far, 22 annual summits have taken place alternatively in India and Russia. The last summit was held on July 8 and 9, 2024 in Moscow. and President Putin is set to visit India for the 23rd summit in New Delhi. Bilateral trade between India and Russia reached a record high of $68.7 billion in FY 2024-25. India's exports to Russia, $4.9 billion. India's imports from Russia, $63.8 billion. Major items of export from India include pharmaceuticals, organic and inorganic chemicals, iron and steel, and marine products. Major items of import from Russia include oil and petroleum products, vegetable oil, particularly sunflower oil, fertilizers, coking coal, precious stones, and metals. The primary mechanism at the government level for enhancing trade and economic cooperation is the India Russia Intergovernmental Commission for Trade, Economic, Scientific, and Cultural Cooperation. Intensifying the trade and economic relations has been identified as a priority area by both the leaders, who had set the targets of increasing bilateral investment to $50 billion by 2025 and bilateral trade to $100 billion by 2030. India has long standing and wide ranging cooperation with Russia in the field of defense. India Russia military technical cooperation has evolved from a buyer seller framework to one involving joint research, development, and production of advanced defense technologies and systems. RM and Russian Defense Minister co chaired the India Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Military Technical Cooperation. INS Turshil was commissioned into Indian Navy in the presence of RM at the Yantar shipyard in Kaliningrad on 9th of December 2024. On 28 March to 2nd of April 2025, the bilateral naval exercise Indra 2025 between Indian and Russian navies was conducted in two phases: harbor phase at Chennai and sea phase in Bay of Bengal. Science and technology has played a key role in the bilateral India-Russia partnership, especially in the early days after India's independence. India and Russia work together on basic sciences, material science, mathematics, and cutting edge areas like India's manned spaceflight program Gaganyaan, nanotechnologies, etc. India's only nuclear power plant established with another country is in Kundankulam in Tamil Nadu, which is established in collaboration with Russia. The bilateral cooperation is guided by the new roadmap for science, technology, and innovation signed during the 21st Annual Summit in New Delhi in December 2021. In 2024, Prime Minister Modi was conferred upon Russia's highest state decoration, the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle, the first called for Prime Minister's outstanding contribution to India-Russia ties. Apart from arms and trade, cultural ties from Russia's love for Indian movies to scholarship programs and tourism have helped the two nations to maintain strong relations despite ups and downs. Around 63,000 people of Indian origin live in Russia. Mohammad Absarul Hassan reports for DT India.
And for more, we have Siddharth Bharadwaj joining us on this. Well, Siddharth, the rare gesture of Prime Minister Modi extended so far to a handful of leaders is evidence of the premium placed on the strategic ties with Russia, he himself receiving the Russian president. Tell us, how is it being read diplomatically?
Hi Likpakchi, first of all, a very good morning to you. And you know, the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi setting aside protocol and going to himself to receive President Putin just goes on to show that, you know, the warmth in the diplomatic ties, the warmth in the ties between India and Russia. You know, we have seen that in SCO summit as well, the car ride. And, you know, the picture himself, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself tweeted that picture that goes on to show that how the relation between both the countries are strengthening, you know, and have strengthened over the years. And this is a proof of that. Apart from that, this is a very significant visit by President Putin in various ways. You know, when you talk about the trade, when you talk about defense, when you talk about some other sectors as well, this is a very significant visit by President Putin, which will reinforce and strengthens the special and privileged strategic partnership between both the countries. You know, yesterday President Putin arrived in India, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself went to the airport to receive him. Goes on to show that how the ties between both the countries are set to elevate. And with this visit, this partnership which I just told you about is set to get a boost in various sectors, and there are certain MOUs which are also expected to sign between both the countries. Apart from that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Putin, you know, have a packed itinerary when you talk about today.
All right. As you said, they have a packed itinerary. Siddharth, can you walk us through President Putin's key engagements today and the major outcomes expected from this visit, particularly in defense co-production, energy ties, expanding trade, and where both sides see the most scope for new agreements?
Definitely, Ripakshi. Like I just mentioned, the both have a packed itinerary. President Putin will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. After that, he will be going to the Rajghat, where he will be paying respects to Father of the Nation, Mahatma Gandhi. After that, both the leaders will be meeting at Hyderabad House in New Delhi, whereas certain MOUs that are expected to be signed, we don't have the details of the MOUs yet, but as and when the details will come, we'll let you know. There are some MOUs which are expected in certain areas. Apart from that, that would be followed by a press statement, and there are some other events that will follow throughout the day. So that is, the packed itinerary between both the leaders, Lipakshi.
All right. Also, Siddharth, what does Putin's visit, his first actually since 2021, signal to the larger world about India-Russia relations at a time of shifting global alignments and geopolitical tensions?
You're right, Lipakshi, here. This visit by President Putin is coming at a time when, we are witnessing different conflicts and wars in different parts of the global world, and also at a time when different parts of the world are reeling under the tariffs by the United States. So in that manner, this is a very significant visit, and which also gives a message to the global world about the strengthening partnership between India and Russia in different sectors, Lipakshi, be it trade, be it defense, be it health and culture and people-to-people ties. When we take the sectors one after the other, first when we talk about trade, the total trade between both the countries stands currently at $68.7 billion, in which India's exports are less than $5 billion. So this visit is also expected to actually narrow that deficit, through India's exports, because India primarily exports pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and other food products as well. So to narrow the deficit, this visit will help as a catalyst to some extent. Apart from that, Lipakshi, when we talk about defense, both the countries are expected to work on the joint manufacturing, joint production of fighter jets. Apart from that, the agreement on S-400, S-500, and apart from that, the other agreements in the defense sector as well. And we certainly cannot forget the people-to-people ties and cultural ties. There are some 20,000 Indian students that reside in Russia, and they are doing different work. So this actually helps bridging the gap between both the countries. So in that manner, it's a very, very, very significant visit, and tells a lot to the global world about how the partnership has started between India and Russia, and where it currently stands, and where it will go in the near future.
All right. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for all those details. And now moving on to the updates from Indian Parliament, the winter session of the Parliament, while in both upper houses, that is Rajya Sabha and lower house, that is Lok Sabha, surrogacy bill, sexual harassment of women at workplace, People's Representatives Bill, cybercrime and food security bills will be listed for today. Looking at Lok Sabha's legislative business, Health Security and National Security Cess Bill has been listed for today as well. Besides, private members' legislation on issues ranging from mental health, agriculture, sports and education are also listed for today. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Rupee rebounds from record low on likely RBI intervention.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, the Reserve Bank of India will unveil its bi-monthly monetary policy decision today, with Governor Sanjay Malhotra set to announce the outcome of the Monetary Policy Committee's three-day meeting. Now, MPC chaired by Governor Sanjay Malhotra began the bi-monthly meeting on Wednesday, December 3rd. After slashing the repo rates for 3 consecutive months since February, the MPC kept it unchanged at 5.5% since August. Governor Malhotra had indicated last month that there was scope for further reduction. Now, the RBI is also expected to upgrade its growth forecast after stronger than expected first half numbers. And for more, we have Shama Mishra joining us on this. Well, Shama, what are the expectations from today's RBI monetary policy? Could we see another repo rate cut after the pause at 5.5%?
Well, Lipakshi, this time around, there's a mixed reaction to the RBI bi-monthly policy because this time around, there is data coming in from the GDP growth, which is above 8%. And this is a very strong data to consider while we are talking about the RBI expectations, policy expectations. On the other hand, as we always speak, that RBI's mandate is to keep the inflation in check, and this time around, the inflation is also under control, under the comfortable range of Reserve Bank of India. So as we are taking these data or these information into account, it is expected largely by the market experts that there'll be no changes this time. There'll be no changes this time around, and there's also a section of the experts that they are saying that there could be, a rate cut of 0.25 basis points. So there is a mixed reaction to this, but largely as we are expecting, and we are seeing the data also, there could be lesser chances, lesser room for the rate cut because the growth rate is good, and even the inflation data is in the comfortable range. Apart from that, there are global headwinds and there are persistent global issues that are going on, and this could be a headache. This could be a cause of concern for the Reserve Bank of India, and definitely they will be taking this into account because for the traders and for the industrialists, an increase of the 50% higher tariffs by the US and a continuous negotiation going on is definitely a cause of concern because the traders definitely want a clear picture over here, and we are not able to achieve that. We are not able to reach there, and this is what RBI will be taking into consideration. Apart from that, there will be so many other things which RBI would be focusing on as we are talking about the stance. So RBI could keep it as neutral, and going forward, if you're talking about the growth projections, RBI could take it up because growth data or indications are coming in pretty good. Apart from that, the inflation numbers or inflation projections could also be taken down. There could be changes in that as well because inflation is also good, and expecting for the next 2 quarters,
all right,
it is expected that the CPI inflation could be further down and will remain in the comfortable range of Reserve Bank of India.
All right. Thank you so much, Shama, for all those details. And moving on, the Indian rupee rebounded on Thursday after touching a new all-time low against the United States dollar, with traders attributing the recovery to likely intervention by the Reserve Bank of India in the foreign exchange market. Now, the Reserve Bank of India typically intervenes in the currency markets to moderate excessive volatility rather than to target a specific exchange rate. Such actions can involve selling dollars from its reserves or using derivative instruments to influence the liquidity. And India's chief economic advisor, V. Anantha Nageswaran, has assured the nation that depreciating rupee does not signal that something is wrong with the Indian economy. In an exclusive interview to DD India, the CEA also emphasized on purposeful policies, countries' focus on global value chain, and how India is becoming a favorable destination of investors from around the globe.
Hello and welcome to DD India. Bharat continues to stand tall as one of the world's fastest growing major economies, consistently demonstrating resilience, ambition, and remarkable progress across sectors. even amid global uncertainties, from geopolitical shifts to market fluctuations. India's growth story remains strong, forward-looking, and full of opportunity. Today, we are joined by the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, V. Anant Nageshwaran, to help us decode the current economic landscape, the trajectory of the Indian rupee, and the reforms and strategies that are shaping India's journey toward becoming a global economic powerhouse. Sir, a very warm welcome to DD India. We are honored to have you on this special broadcast. Sir, when we talk about the world's fastest growing major economy, India, we also talk about the remarkable progress the country is making across sectors. In that context, how do you assess the current movement of the Indian rupee that we are witnessing right now?
So thank you for having me on the show. And the first thing we need to understand, as you have been correctly pointing out in your opening remarks, that our economic fundamentals are sound. And the last 11 years of economic reforms and structural reforms, infrastructure improvement, digital public infrastructure, all of these things have combined to lift the potential or the trend growth rate of the Indian economy. And right now, if you take a dipstick check or the macro health dashboard, we are actually doing very well. And I'm sure at some point the investors will understand this. However, sometimes the exchange rate market for short duration can take a detour of its own, partly because in the near term, capital flows may not be occurring at the rate at which our imports need to be financed. So typically imports are financed through obviously selling goods to others, exports, goods and services, and remittances coming from overseas by Indians, and also capital flows, whether it is equity or debt or foreign direct investment or financial market investments, etc. And these decisions are influenced by a lot of factors in their home countries or due to policies being pursued in those countries, sometimes restricting movement of capital or incentivizing the capital to stay at home over there, etc. And those policies can influence the capital flows from those countries to countries like India. And that may not have anything to do with our fundamentals. And that's very important to understand at this stage. The depreciating rupee does not signal that something is wrong with the Indian economy. On the contrary, the depreciating rupee does not reflect the Indian economic fundamentals. It is becoming cheaper, it is becoming valuable, and I'm sure at some stage, as has happened in the past, they will appreciate this, and the cheaper rupee itself will become a magnet for foreign investment inflows into India. Back to you.
Indeed. Sir, you recently mentioned that the global FDI landscape has become far more competitive since 2024 and that India must further elevate its efforts to attract foreign investors and global supply chain leaders.
That's right.
What strategies is the government considering to strengthen India's position?
So the government has been taking several measures, and you are right, the global FDI landscape is something that has become competitive because not only are we competing with developing countries, we're also competing with developed countries themselves for capital flows, because many of them are now incentivizing these capital to stay at home for their own reasons. And therefore, we have to basically double our efforts to attract global capital. So we are now trying to focus on global value chains, number one. Number two, we have opened up many sectors for foreign investment, whether it is space, drones, defense, and like the insurance sector, for example. And the Prime Minister also has spoken about nuclear energy generation to be open to the private sector and foreigners, etc. So we are continuing to make several sectors of the Indian economy open to foreign investment. And third, we are pursuing deregulation, which is always going to make investments easier, whether it is domestic or foreign in origin. And we are continuing to skill the Indian workers. Employability metrics of Indian youth have been improving. And skilling is an important magnet. And more than union government, several state governments also have been rolling out their own measures to attract foreign direct investment. And we have launched a semiconductor mission where we are inviting foreign chip manufacturers together with Indian joint venture partners to invest in India. And more recently, for example, the Reserve Bank of India has approved financial services acquisitions by foreign banks of some Indian entities. So these are all the multiple steps that we have been taking, and that is why if you look at the gross FDI inflows, they are running at an annual rate of $100 billion. Obviously, in net terms, the numbers are on slightly lower, but definitely much better than last year. And I think net FDI, there will be outflows because when there is an entry of capital, we have to make sure that capital is also allowed to be repatriated, which is what we have been doing, and that actually marks India out as a more easier place to invest and take your profits. And that is an important test of more money coming in, and there we are doing well. And secondly, Indians also invest overseas now, Indian companies, because foreign markets are now requiring and demanding that if you want to sell in our country, you must set up production in our country, which is what we are also doing, and many countries are doing that. So I think ODI also has picked up. But none of this is unhealthy in and of itself. It simply shows that we have to not only lift our game, but sustain it over the long term in order to attract capital, and we are doing that. Back to you.
Definitely. I want to ask you, sir, what additional steps and initiatives is the government taking to ensure that India remains firmly on track to become the world's third largest economy despite ongoing global uncertainties?
We are the third largest economy in PPP terms, and in nominal dollar terms, we are the fifth largest economy now, on course to becoming the fourth largest in time to come. What steps are we taking is, we are basically post-COVID, we have maintained high growth rates, and that is itself a more important magnet because it is the growth rate of the economy that creates purchasing power and that creates demand for companies to produce and satisfy that demand. And then we are also committed to the path of macroeconomic stability and fiscal prudence. These are all important pillars or planks of sustaining investor interest. And that is what we are doing, and we will continue to do so. Then, as I mentioned earlier in my response to the earlier question, this deregulation initiative of the Government of India and that of states is a very important policy pillar, which is what makes it easier to do business and easier to therefore devote any entrepreneur's bandwidth on business development rather than on compliance. And then we have recently, lowered direct taxes significantly in the budget in February. And 2 months ago, we lowered the goods and services tax. Process reforms have been initiated. And the government has decided to notify the labor code, which will also make it easier for employment generation to happen. So the government of India has been taking steps in multiple areas. State governments have been doing their part, and that is why India's growth story stands out. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the rupee's current depreciation will make it an undervalued and attractive currency. And together with the macroeconomic fundamentals, it will actually make it a very attractive currency to invest in the not-so-distant future. Back to you.
Definitely. So we were just talking about the investments in the country. A growing number of international investors continue to view India as one of the most compelling investment destinations today. What, in your view, is driving this strong global interest in India?
I think it is the economy with very good demographics, and historical evidence is that countries with such a young demographic, median age being 27 to 28, normally will continue to display high growth. And post-COVID, we have been able to register high growth without some of the attendant side effects which we used to experience in the past. High growth used to be, after a short period, used to be marked by rising inflation, rising and unsustainable current account deficit or trade deficit, or unsustainable credit growth resulting in non-performing assets. Now, all those side effects are missing now. We have low inflation, which means more purchasing power and disposable income in the hands of the people. And we have very low current account deficit, and around 1.2 to 1.4%. And the banking system is in good shape, disbursing credit and NPA levels are at historic lows. and the trade deficit is under control after taking into account the services sector surplus, etc. So many of the signs of unsustainable growth boom are not there. So this growth boom is sustainable, and that is what makes India an attractive proposition. And secondly, if you look at portfolio investment, the track record speaks for itself. If you take a 30-year view, which is the returns generated by the Morgan Stanley Capital International MSCI India Index in dollar terms, adjusting for risk, India has outperformed the peer group emerging market index and also the all-country world index. So on a risk-adjusted basis, in dollar terms, over a long investment horizon, India has delivered returns. And this is a third point. I mean, this is a market that is characterized by very high domestic consumption share. So our growth helps other countries' growth. Our growth creates demand for companies' products. We are not living off other countries' growth. On the contrary, given our high private consumption share, our growth actually enables other countries' companies and other countries' economies to be able to sell to us and grow themselves. So our growth lifts others' growth rates also. These are all the attractive aspects of our growth for foreign investors. Back to you.
So, sir, can a temporary phase of currency softness actually open up new opportunities for sectors, such as IT, exports, and manufacturing?
In principle, absolutely. I mean, currency competitiveness does matter in these times in the short run. And as I said, but of course, that depends on other factors also, other countries' policies, tariff, non-tariff barriers, etc. All those things will matter. But everything else being equal, certainly, yes, it does provide a certain competitiveness advantage to specific exporting sector, be it services or manufacturing. Back to you.
And finally, sir, before we wrap up, what gives you the greatest confidence that India will continue to rise as a global economic powerhouse in the years ahead?
So the policy is purposeful. Policy is focused on creating the underlying conditions for India to sustain the growth rate and become a developed nation in the next quarter century. So it is not just in the areas that we discussed in the last few minutes, such as lower taxes, deregulation, etc. It is also visible. The purposefulness of the policy makers is also visible in important long-term areas, such as securing supply of rare earths and permanent magnets. The government announced the rare earth mission. And if you look at the various actions that have been taken in the last 12 months, and Press Information Bureau has all those details, in terms of giving a boost to rare earth supplies in India, giving a boost and thrust on emphasis on shipbuilding and the semiconductor mission. These are just three examples I can point to, apart from issues of lower taxes, deregulation, etc., and macroeconomic stability. These are all the things that give me the confidence that policymakers are looking at both the cyclical and the structural aspects of the economy, strengthening all of them so that we are able to deliver sustainable growth at moderately high levels, given the extensive global uncertainties. And that gives me the confidence that we will achieve our development goals. And that is what makes the current valuation of the Indian currency an attractive proposition for investors as well. Thank you. Back to you.
All right, so once again, we are really honored to have you on this special broadcast of DD India. Thank you so much for talking to DD India.
You're welcome. Thank you. And
still to come on DD India News Hour. Trump hosted Rwanda and DRC leaders in Washington as they sign US-mediated peace and economic pact. Sri Lanka's cyclone toll soars as India ramps up rescue and relief under Operation Sagar Bandhu. And Israel cleared for 2026 Eurovision as boycotts by several countries expose deep rift in contest community.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khuran. And moving on, a U.S. appeals court on Thursday handed a victory to President Donald Trump in his effort to keep National Guard troops in Washington, pausing a lower court order that would have ended the deployment in the coming days. Now, in a written order, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit lifted an injunction that said the troops needed to leave the nation's capital by December 11th. The D.C. Circuit's order, which is temporary and does not address the merits of the case, allows Trump to continue a deployment he began this summer and has ramped up in response to a November 26th shooting of 2 National Guard members near the White House. Also, the order came in a lawsuit filed by District of Columbia Attorney General Brian Schwalb, a Democrat and the capital city's top legal officer. More than 2,000 National Guard soldiers have been in Washington since Trump's initial deployment in August, part of Trump's contentious immigration and crime crackdown targeting Democratic-led cities. And the U.S. military said it killed 4 men in a strike on a suspected drug vessel in international waters in the Eastern Pacific on Thursday amid a growing controversy over a campaign that has taken more than 87 lives. Now, the U.S. military said in a statement on X, intelligence confirmed that the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics and transiting along a known narco-trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific. Also, the latest strike targeted a vessel in international waters operated by a designated terrorist organization. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics and transiting along a known narco-trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific, U.S. Southern Command said in a post on X. Early in the day, lawmakers attended a classified briefing on Capitol Hill in which they were shown extended video footage of the strike, only a brief part of which has been publicly released. A senior Democratic lawmaker also saw footage of that incident on Thursday, said it showed a U.S. attack on shipwrecked sailors, while others have described it as a possible war crime. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and President Donald Trump's administration have especially come under fire over an incident in early September in which U.S. forces targeted the wreckage of a vessel that had already been hit, killing 2 survivors. And the U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday allowed Texas to use its newly redrawn congressional districts for the 2026 midterms, giving President Donald Trump's Republicans a stronger chance of keeping control of the House. Now, the conservative majority paused a lower court ruling that found the map relied improperly on race. The plan adds 5 likely Republican districts, making a Democratic takeover more difficult. Also, Justice Samuel Alito said Texas needed clarity ahead of elections, while the 3 liberal justices dissented, arguing the map intentionally divided voters by race. Now, the ruling, though temporary, ensures the map will stand and has prompted similar redistricting moves in several states. And U.S. President Donald Trump hosted the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday to sign a peace agreement in Washington, even as violence persisted in the conflict-hit region. Rwandan President Paul Kagame and Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi reaffirmed an economic integration pact reached last month and a U.S.-mediated peace deal from June that remains implemented. They also signed accords on critical minerals, security and economic cooperation. The event gave Trump another diplomatic win despite ongoing clashes between Rwanda-backed M23 rebels and Congo's army in South Kivu. A White House official said the ceremony underscored Trump's intensive diplomacy and signaled that the U.S. considers the current situation unacceptable, while urging both sides to recommit to the peace process.
I think they've spent a lot of time killing each other, and now they're going to spend a lot of time hugging, holding hands, and taking advantage of the United States of America economically like every other country does. So they're going to do very well, but they do have some very valuable things. They're going to have a lot of money and a lot of success, and I think they're going to get along really well.
Well, Congo's Nobel laureate Denis Mukwege condemned the U.S. brokered peace efforts as President Donald Trump met Congolese leader Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's Paul Kagame in Washington, arguing the deals prioritize access to strategic minerals over ending long-running violence. Now, he said ongoing M23 advances, including new burials in his home village, show that accord is not genuine peace. Mukwege criticized the framework as serving U.S.-China competition while excluding civil society and avoiding accountability.
This is an agreement that is made, not for us. Everything that is done for you, without you, is not done for you. This peace agreement for us is not inclusive. Civil society is not involved. As a result, we consider it a peace agreement that is not sustainable either.
Et donc, du coup, nous considérons que c'est un appel.
And moving on, Sri Lanka's disaster toll has risen sharply in the aftermath of Cyclone Titwa, with the Disaster Management Centre confirming 486 deaths and 341 people missing as of Tuesday evening. More than 171,000 individuals from over 51,000 families remain displaced and sheltered in 1,231 relief centres nationwide. With entire communities cut off and key roads washed away, India has intensified support under Operation Sagar Bandhu. Indian Air Force helicopters continue rescuing stranded residents near Kotmale, delivering supplies and evacuating those in critical need. To restore connectivity, India has dispatched 3 rapidly deployable Bailey bridges, with engineering teams now conducting on-ground assessments and beginning installations along priority routes. Also, the local authorities confirmed that over 20 crucial bridges are destroyed in the disaster. Medical assistance has also expanded, with the Arogya Maitri Bhishma Cube transforming an open site and flooded Indivitwa into a functional field clinic. The unit has already treated over 300 patients suffering from dehydration, injuries and acute illnesses. India's sustained response remains a vital lifeline as Sri Lanka struggles to recover from its worst disaster in decades. An Honduran centrist candidate, Salvador Nasrallah, on Thursday alleged fraud in the country's highly contested presidential vote after his rival, Nasri Asfura, pulled narrowly past him overnight. Nasrallah said the screen displaying the vote data went blank at 3:24 a.m. and alleged an algorithm changed the data, giving the higher tally to Asfura after Nasrallah had been leading the vote count since Tuesday. The results are being updated on the electoral body's website. In a press conference on Thursday, the CNE Electoral Council defended the process and said voting records considered inconsistent were not part of the formal count and would be reviewed. On Thursday, the national parties, Asfura held 40.27%, about 24,400 votes, ahead of the Liberal Party's Nasrallah, who had 39.38%. Rixi Moncada of the ruling leftist Libre Party remained well behind in third place in the election, which was to be held on Sunday. Members of the Electoral Council have blamed the company behind the tabulating platform for pauses in the vote count. And Israel was cleared on Thursday to enter the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest by the European Broadcasting Union. Israeli government, opposition leaders and general public celebrated the country's inclusion in the contest that draws millions of viewers worldwide. The news, however, exposed a deep rift in the Eurovision community. Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland and Slovenia decided to boycott the contest over the Gaza conflict. They accused the organizers of unfair voting practices. Also, notably, Spain is one of Eurovision's big 5 countries, along with France, Germany, Italy and the UK. Austrians, who host next year's contest, have welcomed Israel's participation in the competition. And Germany, meanwhile, asserted that politics and entertainment should not be mixed. The Eurovision Song Contest is the world's largest live music event since 1956. It has a reach of around 160 million viewers across nearly 40 markets and millions more via thriving digital channels. While you're watching DD India News, our time now for some sports news. England finished the first day of the second Ashes Test against Australia at 325 for 9 at the Gabba, Brisbane on Thursday. Having lost the first game by 8 wickets in Perth, the visiting side bounced back with a better show at the start of the second match. Joe Root scored an unbeaten 135, while opener Zach Crawley contributed with a 76. Jofra Archer, unbeaten on 32 of 26 balls, was the batter with Root in the middle when umpires called for stumps on day one. For Australia, Mitchell Starc stood out with figures of 6 for 71. And for more on the Ashes Test, we have Narayan Singh joining us. Well, Narayan, how crucial was Joe Root's unbeaten 135 in helping England recover and post 325 for 9 on day one after their defeat in Perth?
Pakshi, a fantastic knock by Joe Root. If you take a look at his performance, his 40th Test century it was, and also the first on the Australian soil. So personal milestone for Joe Root too, but most importantly, he acted as a savior for the team of England, because the way the things are happening, if you take a look, the first Test match in the Perth, it was a mayhem, and we saw that it's a big loss for the England in the Perth, and if they would have lost the ground in this Test match also, definitely after if Australia would have taken a lead of the match, time is left, but a 2-0 lead in the Ashes series, definitely it's going to hit in a big way for the England team, because Australia has never lost 3 back-to-back Test matches in Australia. So in that context, their match is currently balanced. But kudos to the England team. Nobody would have thought that they will bat a full day on day one, because as the first Test match was folded within 2 days, and it was on. Everyone was expecting that this Test match too will over in 2 days. But the kind of application the England's batters showed, they were considering the situation, because the pitch was like a paradise for the pace bowlers, and also it's a big ball test, so everybody was hoping that it may fold up within 2 days. But the application that England batters showed, great, and kudos to especially their opener, especially the Jack Crawley, the way he played, and especially the Ben Stokes, and towards the end, the way their pace bowlers for the 9th wicket, the kind of stand they took, it will be very helpful for this England team if the match goes on today. If they could add 20, 30, 40 runs and took the score to 350 runs, it will be a better situation for England team.
All right, so the match looks quite balanced as of now, as you said, Narayan. Thank you so much for all those details. And the stage is set in Washington, D.C. Football's most coveted trophy is in the town, and the world's eyes are on the draw for 2026 FIFA World Cup, taking place on Friday night. With 48 teams and several debutants, the event will confirm the group stage lineup and set the tone for the tournament. Here is more.
The FIFA World Cup trophy has arrived in Washington, D.C., touring the U.S. capital ahead of Friday night's much-anticipated final draw for the 2026 World Cup. The former England captain will conduct the first-ever 48-team final draw, supported by a remarkable lineup of sporting icons, Tom Brady and Shaquille O'Neal, each assigned to one pot to pull teams from Group A to L. The expanded 48-team tournament will be co-hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico from June 11 to July 19, 2026. The draw will slot qualified teams into 12 groups of 4, with the top 2 and 8 best third-place teams advancing to the knockouts. 42 teams have sealed qualification, while 22 more remain in the playoff race for the final 6 spots. Hosts USA, Canada and Mexico are placed in Pot 1 alongside top-ranked teams Spain, France, Argentina, England, Brazil and Germany. Pot 2 features Morocco, Croatia, Colombia and Japan, while Pot 3 includes Norway, Egypt and Ivory Coast. Pot 4 will be completed by playoff winners, with confederation rules ensuring no group has more than one team from the same region, barring UEFA, which can have 2. The tournament opens at Mexico City's historic Estadio Azteca, the first stadium to host 3 World Cup openers, and concludes at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on July 19. Canada and Mexico will host 13 matches each, while the remaining games will be spread across 11 US cities.
We are in the 21st century and we have to shape the Football World Cup of the 21st century. It's not anymore the 20th century, it is the future. We have to look into that. Football is more than just Europe and South America. Football is global.
US President Donald Trump, who is set to attend the draw on Friday, had already announced that the Kennedy Center, currently undergoing a renovation, will serve as the primary World Cup office and feature prominently in America's 250th anniversary celebrations next year. Sports Desk, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kunana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.